All right, so Aaron Rodgers finally came out of the darkness, signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
As I told you he would.
Well, the Steelers pretty much backed themselves into a corner there, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I also think that if you look at the way that your New York Football Jets handled the Aaron Rodgers thing, I think Pittsburgh. I know you're not. You're an Aaron Rodgers fan, right?
I'm a recovering Jets fan.
Right. Yeah, I think that when if you look at if you look at how the Jets handled the whole thing, and just the way that they sort of let him control the narrative,
right,
and let it be the story of the off season, and then the way that the Steelers did it, where let him do his thing. He ends up getting married, right? And,
yes.
You give a guy a chance to get married, makes sense, and sort of it's very Mike Tomlin-esque to me, just the way that they allowed it to bubble under the surface without it becoming the wholesale storyline. Obviously, we're talking about it, and they made these big moves this offseason where they're clearly all in on this year. But I do think, it's, given, the nature of the franchise we're talking about, given the number of stars that they have, how we talk about, Russell Wilson with the Steelers is a huge deal, right? The way that the Rodgers thing has gone, given how much he's the focus of attention and how much they're the focus of attention, I think it's fairly under the radar, just, relative to the people and the teams involved.
Will Brinson is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show at Will Brinson on Twitter. So as you started into that, I have all of these things racing through my head. I always liked Robert Saleh as a guy and as a coach, but as an organization, it has to give the Steelers a better chance because they are incredibly well run. Even though it's been a minute since they won a Super Bowl, they're incredibly well run as opposed to the Jets, who are a complete circus act, day after day after day. But I just wonder if the Steelers are so well run, do they really believe in their hearts that this is going to get them where they want to be?
I don't know if it's going to get them to where they want to be. I do think they know that they're getting Aaron Rodgers. He's hinted at it. I guess he's kind of said it, his last hurrah, right?
Signed a 1-year deal.
Yeah, and he basically said he plans on retiring after this season.
Yeah.
So you're getting this, literally all in Aaron Rodgers with a chance to, because look, the guy leaves Green Bay as a future Hall of Famer, but also as someone who, once he plays for the Jets, loses some degree of how he's perceived from a national overall legacy standpoint, just because it became very Jetsy and things weren't perfect, right? It's like we sort of knew it was going to happen. I know I've talked about the Favre stuff before, but Favre, Minnesota, going to Minnesota after the Jets, sort of burnished his reinvigorated his legacy. And I realized he got hurt with the Jets and all that, but with Rodgers, same thing, right? The Jets thing was a disaster, and I do think a single year with a competent organization like the Steelers, with Arthur Smith, who, you say what you want about his offense, he's not going to ask Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball 600 times. You're going to get, hopefully, the most efficient version of Aaron Rodgers with a good run game and what should be a pretty good defense in a division that they were competitive in last year, with that Mike Tomlin smoke and mirror stuff. I think, if Rodgers has that sort of far bounce back post-Jets era, the ceiling is there for a playoff run. I don't think they're the best team in the division. I don't know that they're the third best team they're probably the third best team in the division for me, but they could certainly win that division and make some noise in the playoffs. Just, hope to get to the postseason and Rodgers gets hot, knowing that this is his, likely final run.
You bring up the division. Will Brinson is joining us. I don't know if it's the toughest division in football. It might be the NFC North as opposed to the AFC North. That's the toughest division in football. But it's certainly on a short list if you consider Gosh, just look at the other two quarterbacks at the top of that division, Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. And look, if I watched enough Jets football this past year because they were on nationally because it was Aaron Rodgers.
Brutal.
Here's my the Jets as a team were brutal and they were poorly coached ultimately, but Rodgers was all over the place with his own performance, sometimes within a game. Like there were moments where he showed you, oh gosh, there's Aaron Rodgers. And then like the next series, I'm like, oh boy, there's Browning Nagel. That's a Jets blast for Jets fans out there. Like it became that. So I just wonder if he's going to be able to do it consistently enough. They better have a good running game.
Yeah. Have to have a good running game, have to have a really good defense. You can't ask him to do everything. Like that, it's not going to work for the Steelers this year if they have to lean on Aaron Rodgers, again, throwing the ball 600 times. I don't think they will. I mean, I think you see it. Arthur Smith, I mean, you go back to when he was the OC of the Titans or when he was running the Falcons, right? I mean, like this is a guy who loves to run the football. Former offensive lineman at Chapel Hill, right? He is going to run the crap out of the ball. I think Mike Tomlin wants to keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. I think they want him to be – no, I mean, I think they do. Like, in a perfect world, Aaron Rodgers is really efficient on first and third down, though they'll probably run the ball on first down most of the time, but like he's really efficient in the red zone. He's really efficient on third downs, and he's like clutch late when they need him to be. And if he can do those things and not make a bunch of mistakes, which he's been good about not doing for the majority of his career, then I think that offense can be efficient. It can operate functionally. I mean, I would be, I don't think they're going to be like a top 10 in terms of points scored per game, but I do think that they can be a top half of the league offense from that heat pounding efficiency here, but like from an offensive efficiency standpoint, I think they can be that if the running game is good and Rodgers is closer to his old self, or at least the later part of his Packers run, than he was when he was with the Jets.
Yes, and we'll all forget those 2 years with the Jets, and we're just thankful that there were no Crocs incidents. So the Steelers we're just happy about that. Although that came out after the fact anyway, so the jury's still out. The Steelers.
Shout out Jim Sturger.
Yeah, shout outs. She's doing a podcast somewhere like everybody else. Jalen Ramsey for Minka Fitzpatrick. Also, Jonnu Smith, the tight end from Miami to Pittsburgh. Why do I think that it's two guys who are basically past their sell-by date as great players being swapped for one another?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little weird. Like, I would probably rather have Minka if just, look, Jalen Ramsey, has played an all-pro defensive player of the year level at various points in his career. Yeah. When he's on, he's a great cornerback. Jonnu Smith, by the way. Let's not mention Jonnu Smith as a throw-in. I mean, this is a guy who,
he's good.
They draft Kyle Pitts in the top 10 pick, and then Jonnu Smith is the object of Arthur Smith's adoration. He did some good stuff with him in Tennessee. Good stuff with him. This is a guy who I think can be very productive in that offense. Great after the catch. Tight end, good in the run game, like versatile in that sense. And then, but in terms of the defensive guys, it seemed like, they went out and got Jalen Ramsey, like they are really all in. And then it's like, you traded Minka? Okay, interesting. I think with this Steelers team, and it's fascinating because, that all-in phrase, they haven't said it, but dude, you trade for, you go get DK Metcalf. You go get Jalen Ramsey. You go get Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this is not Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell style personalities, but they have some explosive personalities on both sides of the ball now. And if things go well, it's a lot of peacocking. If things don't go well, there is a lot of dynamite in the water. And I mean, if it has some circus potential. Mike Tomlin's great about keeping things in check. But I mean, if things go south for the Steelers, you could see some some real fireworks. But like if things go well, I mean, DK Metcalf is an elite receiver, and Jalen Ramsey, if he's playing at a high level, and they got to sign T.J. Watt this offseason. Figure out he wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, but you keep him in the fold. And I know the trade rumors and all that. I don't think when you make these all-in moves, you go trade T.J. Watt. So to me, it's like you get that pass rush cooking up front, and Ramsey can be an elite level cornerback.
Yeah, you bring up T.J. Watt. I don't know how that's going to play out. He's certainly not happy about his contract, and he probably deserves a pretty big bump. Will Brinson, senior NFL writer, CBSSports.com, is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. If I told you that Jayden Daniels was going to be the MVP of the NFL, what would you say?
I would say that Cliff Kingsbury is going to get another job, and I wouldn't be that surprised. I mean, he's that good. You know, I do think that there is a decent chance, and I say this not as like any sort of doubt about Jayden Daniels' career, because I think he's going to be great. And Washington flipped things around, plus Dan Snyder with Adam Peters as the GM. Dan Quinn. They flip everything around overnight, and Jayden Daniels is a huge part of that, obviously. But we saw C.J. Stroud, incredible first year in Houston. You can sometimes see these guys, even when they're superstar level, Hall of Fame track first seasons, you can see a little bit of a dip in that second year. I don't know that we're going to necessarily see that from Jayden, just because his legs make him such a lethal threat in terms of what he can do. With the ball in his hands when the throwing windows aren't there.
Right.
And I trust the coaching to a degree. I think Kingsbury Cliff did a great job last year. I was really surprised by it, honestly. But I mean, I do think seriously. Yep. But there's a chance for a little sophomore regression. But if you told me he has an MVP caliber season, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Here's the thing about, I think maybe some people do give it credit, or maybe they don't. I don't know. When you come from where Washington was and you play lesser schedules, the schedule is a little easier because the NFL is engineered for all of that. It's a little bit easier to have a great impact. Then you throw in the fact that with rookies, you haven't been around the league yet, so some of the things you do can surprise teams, although by the end of the year, everybody's seen everything. We know how talented he is. I do wonder, in year 2 with Washington, if it goes as well as it did in year 1, but I think he is super talented, and I think that team has been built the right way.
Yeah, for sure. And look, Adam Peters he's a guy that had been pegged for a GM spot for years, and he did a great job getting everybody on the same page. He goes out and he knows how to make, some splash moves, but also to sort of fortify, things around Jayden Daniels. The one thing to your point about, getting tape on a guy or whatever is, last year when Jayden Daniels burst on the scene, you have a week to prepare for him and all of that. Everybody who's playing him this year knows how good he was, knows what he can do, and knows that he's on the schedule coming up this year. So that's something that defensive coordinators in the offseason, as you're building out your holistic game plan for the year, you know in the back of your mind that you're going to see Jayden Daniels, and you are implementing things and looking at tape on him that might make it a little bit trickier. To your point, when you win in the NFL, you have to play a winner's schedule, and Washington's going to get one of those this year. Yeah,
we're gonna. It will get more difficult, but man, he is something else to watch. All right, sir. Yeah. Happy birthday, America! Enjoy your. I don't know. Are you a fireworks guy?
I like watching. I'm not a big shooting off fireworks. I like my hands.
There you go. Nobody wants the Jason Pierre-Paul.
Yeah, that's right. No JPP for me here.
There you go. Thanks, man. Take care.
All right, buddy. Happy 4th. See you, man.
You too.